Happy Easter. Welcome back to my place. I'm Eric. So I'm just having a bowl of porridge here, and I'm feeling nostalgic. So we're going to look at some of the old projects I've made for people. A couple of them. I've got a few, so I might do this in two parts. The first one is going to be a dice tower that I made for an old coworker of mine. We're still friends. The other will be a little Christmas ornament that I made for a manager of mine for Christmas. The dice tower is because years ago, when we started hanging out, my coworkers at one of my old jobs, we played this bootleg version of Dungeons and Dragons together. We used D6s. That should be all you need to know about how loosely we play by the rulebook. So I wanted something to lean into that. His character is bird themed with a blue colorway. So I thought it would be fun to make a miniature of a massive bird statue, like a huge, colossal statue of this falcon. So I was looking around at different options, and what I settled on was those hollow plastic scarecrow birds that you put on rooftops, like owls, things like that. I bought one off the internet, cut it open so that I could place inside the platforms for the dice to roll down on and get shuffled and mixed up on. Covered those in felt. I cut a little hole in the bottom that the dice would then funnel into and come out onto a little tray that sat beneath. But then I had to dress it up. So I figured I would make a little chimney, like a castle column that would rise up out of the back, so that that's where you would insert the die. Dress that up and sculpt little bricks on it. Because it was rather difficult to get to the highest point of it, like sculpting really close in that small angle, I decided on flattening it, sculpting it flat, making a sheet of these little bricks, and then wrapping them around a cardboard tube of toilet paper that I had cut so that it would sit at the right angle. So that's what I wound up doing. I had to bake it upside down, yeah, because it had to fit right. So I pressed it to fit, made sure that it would key into the hole that it was sitting on top of, and then I flipped it back so that the top was on the cookie sheet in the oven. You have to bake super sculpty for it to cure. Along with that, I made a little entranceway, a little pond or something like that, with an arch, and those were baked separately. They had armature wire in them to keep their shape and stuff like that. Just a lot of folding felt over, sculpting little rocks and trying to make them look somewhat irregular and natural, which is a lot harder when you start to do it. When it was all finished sculpting and together and everything was glued up, I hit it with some primer paint, this gloss white, which in retrospect is so bad. I don't know why I still use it, but anyway. I painted the main statue a dark bronze color and tried to make the bottom look somewhat like wood. It's really hard to do that when you don't have the right paint colors. So I was playing around with that a lot, just adding layers and layers and layers and not being happy with it and trying it again. I also went to the store that we used to work for, and I bought these little circular crystals that I placed into the eyes because the old ones were red and it didn't work with the blue theme. Painted that all up, added this mint green kind of acrylic that made it look a bit more aged, added little armature wire that I had bent to look like vines crawling up the edges and crevices of the cracks of everything, used some fake moss that I super glued on, and I think it turned out pretty nice, all things considered. I can't say how much he uses it because it's quite big. It's maybe, I don't know, about 12 inches. It's a little cumbersome, a little hard to whip out when you're playing some D&D. I think he was pretty happy with it, and I was pleased that it just turned out at all, because with these things you don't really know. With the next thing, I worked at a provincial park for 2 years, and my manager there super lovely. She was having a gingerbread party. Her birthday is on New Year's Day. New Year's Eve? I think it's New Year's Eve. No, it's New Year's Day, because she told me that. Anyway, it's irrelevant. Her birthday is on New Year's Day. I learned this the year before too late, so I thought I have to make her something for her birthday. I was thinking of the Christmas theme and how we were going to come over to her place for the gingerbread party. I thought it would be good to make her a Christmas ornament because they're small. You don't really have to keep them around all year if you don't think they look very good. I thought it would be neat to make a little miniature diorama inside a Christmas ornament of a campsite because we worked at a provincial park together. I started with a black plastic Christmas ornament that I had in a box. Don't know why we had them. I dremeled out a hole as a little viewing window. I thought it would be neat to have a flickering light to simulate the campfire. I thought that would be so cool. Even just to have a light at all, but to have it flickering would be amazing. Went to the store, grabbed one, took it apart so that I just had the circuitry, the light bulb, and the switch, and I placed it at the bottom third of this Christmas ornament, which really no longer was what it looked like. It was kind of torn up because I had made little silhouette trees at the back. So the bottom third was occupied by the electronics. I cut out a circular piece of cardstock to simulate the gravel pad that the campsites were on, and I cut a hole for the light to poke through. That was all pretty easy. So I put some regular Elmer's glue onto the cardstock, poured some salt to look like gravel. I painted it gray and different textures of gray with a little bit of black around the fire pit to look like it had been charred and the charcoal had been spread around a little bit. We also had picnic tables at the campsites. So I took the same cardstock, cut out little strips and pieces, and assembled a really, really tiny little picnic table that was super cute. I even added a little ring, a black ring, from one time or a few times that we had people put down their cookware onto the table before it cooled down and just burned a big hole or ring or what have you into the table. Yeah, so that was really fun. I added some Q-tips and different pieces of plastic inside to look like branches that were coming up from the edges. I had little bits of that moss that I used in the bird tower, the dice tower. I used some fake moss around the bottom to look like bushes, some fake moss at the top to look like leaves. I used a mechanical pencil cap, the same one that I have right here. This little tiny thing I took and I dremeled it out, same with the Christmas ornament, same Dremel, the same curves and voids that you have in a fire pit. I cut a matchstick in half and cut the top on an angle, put some little tin foil and a piece of paper on it that was so small I had to use an X-Acto blade to just put it on to look like one of the tag posts that we would have at every campsite. We would also be pulling off tags every day. I also added some smoke that was a pulled apart Q-tip that came out of the fire to look like a little wisp of smoke coming out. After that was done, after the interior was all fleshed out and the light worked and everything, I painted the outside to look like a regular Christmas ornament, so it was kind of a pearlescent white, some shiny light blue, and I did little snowflakes to look like just an ordinary Christmas ornament that happened to also contain this little diorama inside and have some weird holes all around it. My only concern was that she wouldn't want something like that, so I asked beforehand, trying to be nonchalant, if they celebrated Christmas, and she was like, yeah, for the most part, we do gifts and stuff like that, but we don't go too crazy. We do have a tree up and stuff, and I was like, that's all I need to know. I went to their place with some of my coworkers, my friends. I was looking around for this tree. There's nothing on it, and I was like, oh no, this is awful, because maybe this was a mistake. I asked them about it, and they were like, oh, we just didn't have time, so we actually do have ornaments, but they're just in a little box off to the side. So I was like, great. So I gave it to her, and she was like, wow, this is like, did you make this? And I was, that's too self-indulgent. She was really happy with it. She couldn't believe that I made it. There's always that thing where when people start passing around the thing that you made and just pouring over it, there's a little bit of weird embarrassment, like you shouldn't be getting this attention right now. I always feel that way when it gets to be like that, a little bit overwhelming, the attention. But it was great. She was really happy with it, and I turned on the light, and they were like, "Whoa, that's insane! That's insane!" I was really happy with that. I wish I took better pictures of it, like more macro photos of it, but it was kind of hard to get inside of that. Yeah, but it was really fun to make. Anyway, next time around, I will show you a Bigfoot. Not Bigfoot, but a Bigfoot. A little house nightlight. And a rocket ship. Don't know how those are connected. But thanks for stopping by. I'll catch you later. I gotta go to work like right now, by the way. Gotta brush my teeth ASAP.